If I bought you a restaurant tomorrow, I wouldn't touch Instagram. I wouldn't fire anyone. I wouldn't touch a single dish on the menu. In fact, there are 7 things I would do first. The very first 7 things I would do to turn your restaurant around. If you don't know me, my name is Chip Close. I'm the founder and CEO of Restaurant Strategy. I help independent restaurant owners increase the profitability of their restaurants. I do that in a bunch of different ways. One of those is here through this YouTube channel. I want to walk you through all 7 things that I would do first before I did anything. I would need to get a strong foundation underneath me. So without any further ado, the number one thing I would do is I would get clear on my KPIs, key performance indicators, specifically 3 different numbers. Number 1, your break-even point, right? So I want to understand how much revenue I would need to do just to make sure I wasn't losing money every month. After today, we're not going to care much about break-even, but I have to know where that break-even is because there's non-negotiable. I cannot do less revenue than this every single week or every single month. That's the first KPI. Second KPI is prime cost. COGS percentage plus labor percentage equals prime. We understand those numbers as a percentage of revenue. We want labor and COGS together, called prime cost, to be no higher than 60%. God love you. If you can get them to 55, 52, 50, great. But anything over 60% is a problem, and you will never be able to make money in your restaurant if prime cost is over 60%. I'd want to know where you're at. And finally, number 3, I would want to know PPA, per person average. I want to know on average how much a guest is worth to me at lunch, how much they're worth to me at dinner, how much they're worth on a weekday versus on a weekend, how much they're worth to me if they sit with Amy versus when they sit with John. I want to understand the variability of PPA. The very first thing I would do, the first area I would cover are these KPIs, key performance indicators. And specifically, I want to know break even, prime cost, and PPA. It's the very first thing I'm doing, probably during discovery, whether I'm determining whether I'm even going to buy or take over your restaurant. Number 2, the second area that I would look at is revenue management. I would want to know, because now we know our break even, I would want to know how much revenue do I think I should be making every single month. And then we break that down by week. And yes, we break that all the way down to day or even shift. Big restaurants, hotels, Hard Rock Cafe, they break them down by hour. They understand how many covers they need to get in there and how much revenue they need to be generating hour by hour by hour. For you, you need a really good system for measuring every single day, setting a target for the day and understanding what you need to do to hit that target, right? Some combination of how many covers at what dollar amount, what PPA to hit that number. I would want to know that there's a revenue management system in place. And if there was none there, I would put mine in place. It's one of the things we do. We give everybody in my program, P3 Mastermind, we give them what we call the P3 scorecard. I would install that P3 scorecard on day 1. It's that important. I would want to manage my expenses. And here's the problem. A lot of restaurant owners just try to watch their numbers, right? So I say, well, how much do you need to make? How much profit are you targeting? We say, well, we're just trying to make as much money as we can and try to limit our expenses as much as possible. And that makes sense, right? Revenue minus expenses equal profit. But the very first thing you need to do is, and this is why we measure break even, I want to know how much profit I should reasonably expect at the various revenue levels. So I have a system for managing revenue. That's the P3 scorecard. And now I need a system for managing my biggest expenses, mostly my rent, making sure that I've got revenue at high enough so that my rent percentage makes sense. Anything below 8% is right. That's a good rule of thumb. But then I need something like a declining budget, so I make sure nobody ever over orders when they're doing when they're managing the inventory, right? So declining budget to manage the inventory, the COGS, and make sure we have a system in place so that nobody ever overschedules. One rule that I have with all my clients is we never post a schedule that's over budget. We don't post it and say, well, it's a little heavy, but I don't know when we're going to be busy. I'll just be really good about cutting as the week goes on. Guess what? You can't. You can't cut more than 1, 2, 3 points off of your labor budget. You're never going to go from 40 to 30. You're never going to go from 38 to 30. It's never going to happen. Maybe you can go from 32 to 30, but the way to combat this is by never posting a schedule over budget. So the third thing that we're doing is that expense management. So again, the first 3, number 1, understanding our KPIs, specifically break even, prime cost and PPA. Number two, we're installing a system for managing revenue management. It's what all the big chains and groups have. Third one is expense management, managing COGS and labor mostly because they are our controllables. Number four is I want to identify leadership. I want to make sure I have the right people on the bus in the right seats, right? You've read Jim Collins' Good to Great. It's probably the number one business book ever written in the history of business books. I've read a ton, and I can say firmly, this is the one I go back to over and over and over again. Good to Great is to be studied. And the very first thing he says is that your people matter more than anything else. They are your biggest asset. So making sure you get the right people on the bus in the right seats. And I want to establish a leadership culture. I want to make sure that my leaders, my managers, my directors of operation, my GM, my chefs, I want to make sure that they understand the difference between leadership and management. One is about inspiration. One is about execution. One is about vision. One is about risk taking. The other one is about, managing risk and managing people and looking at the tasks. We need them to be leaders and we need them to be managers, but they're two different hats and they're never wearing the hat at the same time. So when do we need them to inspire and lead with vision and drive the bus through motivation? And when do we just need them to get down to the nuts and bolts and figure out what tasks need to get done to make certain things happen? So leadership is the next thing I would dial in. I would make sure that I've got a path for growth, a path to develop those managers, that I'm doing regular sit downs with all my managers. I'm sitting down minimum once a month for a 30-minute check-in, right? This isn't a, hey, how you doing? This is, hey, let's look at your performance. Let's look at how it's going. Let's look at where your gaps are. What do you still need to learn? What are we seeing that we like? What are we seeing that we can still find improvement? It's getting very, very specific. I do that every single month, minimum 30 minutes every month with every single person on my team. Line level employees, right? The hourlies, that's like quarterly or twice a year, but my managers, once a month, individually, one-on-one. Number five, now finally we're going to look at menu design, and we're not changing anything about the menu. We're just gathering information. Specifically, I'm looking at recipe cards because I want to understand the profitability of everything we serve. I want to know how much contribution is coming from every single dish. When a guest orders this, how much do we make? When they order this, how much do we make? So I'm looking at the profitability of the item, and then I'm looking at my product mix, P mix, so I can see the popularity of the items, so I can see which are the items that are both popular and profitable, which are the ones that are not very profitable and not very popular. Those will tell us about what we need to do. And then I'm looking at the design of the layout and looking at the product mix, and I'm saying, where are things listed? How are they listed? How are they priced? How are they described? And does any of that have any sort of impact in what gets ordered and sort of the velocity of how things move in the kitchen? All of that is just information gathering so we figure out then what we're going to do with the menu. But notice, we haven't changed anything. I have no ideas. I don't know anything. I'm just asking really good questions. And if you do this, if you take over a restaurant, you have to get really good at asking questions. And guess what? When you can do this with your own operations, you become unstoppable. The next one, number 6, is sales training, right? We have two major tools to sell anything, and make no mistake, we are in the sales business. We have our menu, that's the piece of sales collateral that we give every single person who walks into the restaurant. And then we have our servers, our bartenders, our managers, the frontline workers who are responsible for guiding the guest experience. And yes, even in a quick service, fast casual establishment, those people can impact what gets sold. So I want to do sales training. Literally, what do we do on first approach? How do we set the pace? How do we establish confidence and rapport with our table? How do we drive first beverages? How do we take all the air? How do we describe about the menu? How do we make recommendations? How do we do upsells? How do we anticipate the needs throughout the meal? How do we manage the flow and the timing of the table to make sure that we're maximizing the spend of every single table? Make no mistake, the very best restaurants in the world excel at doing this. Yes, it's about feeding people good stuff. Yes, it's about making them feel comfortable and welcome and loved, but it's also about showing them the best possible way to experience this restaurant, and we do that through sales by selling the great stuff that we have. That's the 6th thing we do. And then number 7, I'd set a foundation for the marketing of our restaurant. Now, notice, I'm not talking about sending emails or, overhauling our Instagram or looking at our SEO, none of that. I'm talking about building a marketing foundation, and that's what I call the ABCDs of marketing. A stands for audience, figuring out who are we trying to serve, who has a problem that we're uniquely qualified to solve, right? Understanding who our product is for. B, brand is our product, right? Ours is a solution for a specific person or a specific group of people or a specific kind of person. C is for competition. We figure out who else is out there trying to serve the same audience, who's trying to solve the same problem, right? A, B, C, D. D is differentiation. If we're in a category, right, and if we have competitors, then we're on a short list, right? We are in a category. So if someone says, hey, let's just go out tonight. Sure, what are you in the mood for? Let's go get sushi. Perfect. The Mexican place, the Greek place, the Chinese place, they're all off the table because we said we're in the mood for sushi. So what are the sushi restaurants that are top of mind? It's either the one we like, the one that's most convenient, the ones our friends told us about, whatever it is. When we're in a category with other sushi restaurants, then we have to figure out how we separate ourselves from the pack. We are a sushi restaurant just like all these others, except we do this differently, except there's a key differentiator. So A is for audience, who are you trying to serve, who has a unique problem that you are qualified to solve. B, brand, how does your restaurant, how does the dining experience solve that? C is competition, who else is trying to solve the same problem you are? That gives you a category. Differentiation is how do you stand out from the others in your category? A, B, C, D leads to E. E stands for everything. Everything you do then, every channel, every menu, every signage, the lighting, the music, the pricing, all of that communicates something about who you are and who you're for. And that's the seventh thing. So notice, I'm not changing anything about our Instagram yet. I'm not changing our cadence of emails yet. I'm not changing our website. I'm not changing our ads. Nothing until I understand who we are and who we're for. Those are the 7 things I would do. If I had bought your restaurant, took it over today, those are the 7 things I would do before I do anything else. Before I fire anyone, run an ad, change a dish, or touch Instagram. I would do those things. Again, number 1, KPIs, specifically break-even, prime cost, and PPA. You have to know those numbers inside and out. Number 2, I'd install a system for revenue management. Number 3, I would install a system for expense management. How do we post schedules that are under budget? How do we order and make sure we stay under budget? Number 4, a framework for leadership, for developing the leaders who are in charge of our restaurant. Number 5, I would look at the menu design, specifically looking at recipe cards to find the profitability of the dishes, and I would look at the product mix to understand the popularity of the dishes. Number 6, I would undergo sales training with my team, make sure they know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and why it matters because we are in sales. So I would create that foundation. And then the last piece is that marketing foundation, the ABCDs of marketing, understanding who you are and who you're for. Most people come in and tinker with all the tactics or the channels or do all this other stuff that feels important, but it's not. None of it is as important as understanding these systems, installing these systems, these frameworks into your business. If you need help with that, if you have questions with that, obviously check out the other videos. I also run a group coaching program called the P3 Mastermind, where we work with hundreds of restaurant owners from all over the country to handhold, right? Hold your hands and help you install these things into your business to help you implement them swiftly within 90 days. You want to learn more about that, you're going to find the link in the captions. Appreciate you guys. I will see you here on the next one.